But today we just came from this conference.
It's called the New York Times DealBook Summit.
This shit was huge, bro.
I didn't. You know what's so funny? I never realized how big something is until I get there.
I thought we were recording at WTF Media.
Yeah.
I thought it was like just a podcast recording. They're like, we're gonna do a podcast episode. We're recording where the New York City Philharmonic is.
I didn't know that.
I'm almost positive.
Oh, that wasn't where they do the Philharmonic, was it?
No,
I'm not gonna say it wasn't.
I
might be wrong.
West Side, Broadway, 30th. I mean,
no,
50th,
this is
60th?
No, this is not it. I apologize. It looks similar. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Can I say some of the names of people that were there?
Yeah. I mean, we walk in. Scott Besson is just talking.
But no, you said that Chris should have been there, bro.
Chris should have been there.
You should have, because Chris loves journalism. But you know why Chris should have been there?
Why?
Look who the fuck was there, bro. The president of fucking Taiwan.
The president of
Dr.
Taiwan.
Go!
Dr. La Ching-Ti was there. And you wasn't
say that shit
fucking there.
again. Pronounce it.
Dr. La Ching-Ti.
Let me try.
Okay? If I walk into Starbucks and say that, what would they give me?
This guy's an ass. This guy is an ass. His name is Dr. Jacob Stevens.
No, it's not, bro.
That's also Asian. You don't put
You know the president of Taiwan. What's the president of Taiwan's name, Chris?
You probably got it right.
La Chang-Ti.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lai Chang-Ti.
Yo, go to Starbucks, order me one of those right now. That's this year?
You just left it.
No, but I saw Clinton there with fucking Serena.
That was last year.
Oh, I'm about to say.
Halle Berry?
Look. All right,
Halle Berry was in the building?
there. Scroll up. The fucking chair and CEO of General Motors, Mary Barr. Mr. Beast was there. Jimmy Donaldson.
Larry Fink.
David Ellison was there, the chairman and CEO.
Alex Karp.
They were protesting David Ellison. They were protesting Alex Karp,
Oh,
too.
Gavin Newsom was there. We should have sat down with Gavin.
Erica
bro.
Kirk was there. I didn't even know that. Gavin Newsom was there. That was all the day.
That's just, this is just something light. Also, Charlamagne the God and Andrew Schulz.
But keep scrolling. Go to our
Greatest
panel.
political pundit
I want to tell y'all who was
duo in
on our
history.
panel.
Oh, Carbone.
Come on, man. Y'all scrolling too slow, man. I see a lot of liars up there.
There's so many people because this is over multiple days, Charlamagne.
That was there. Gary Vaynerchuk was there.
Monica Lewinsky and
Okay, boom, right here. They had a task force, right? This
This not our task force.
This wasn't our panel. But I was there. Andrew Schulz was there. Scroll up. I'm looking for who was on our panel. John Favreau.
John Favreau.
I'm sorry, the co-founder of
Crooked Media and Pod Save America.
Ben Shapiro.
We miss you, Tommy.
My guy David Remnick was there.
The editor of The New Yorker, the host
Stephanie
of The New Yorker
Rule.
Radio. Stephanie Rule was there.
The 11th
Amna
hour.
Nawaz was there. Ben Shapiro was there.
That's right. That's who was on our panel, though.
We were just talking shit.
That was who was on our panel. It was interesting, though. But I've come to the conclusion.
how did they decide to break you guys up in terms of like what panel to put you on?
I have no idea. Well, ours was about media. Ours was supposed to be about strictly media, and I guess like this.
Michael Barbaro hosted it, by the way. The Daily.
Yes, Michael
hosted
Barbaro was daily. So it was about media. So it was just all of these people who represent different facets of media. You know what I'm saying? I guess, from the podcasting to, radio to interviewing to, journalism like David does to what Favreau and Ben Shapiro do by being podcasts. I don't know if you call them podcasts or new media outlets.
Bro, it's
New media networks?
It's the way I look at things now is like everything is a podcast. Podcast used to be a type of media, and now everything has been podcastified. So like every ESPN show is also available as a podcast.
Yeah.
Radio is also available
definitely.
as a podcast. So podcast is just what we call unscripted media. Now there's even scripted podcasts, but The View you could probably listen to as a podcast or watch as a podcast. So podcast is just what media is
If your
now.
content is not coming out in a podcast every day, you're behind the eight ball
dead.
so far. Like, I don't even know what you're doing. But it was a great conversation, man. But what I realized is that legacy media I'm not going to say they have a problem with new media, but they just don't understand what it is that they're getting wrong. But I understand what they're getting wrong. Schultz understands what they're getting wrong. They just really don't have a connection with the people.
Bro, they tried to get me, man.
Oh, they jumped him. They jumped him.
They jumped.
Oh, they jumped him.
Because I knew I was waiting the whole time. I was like, they literally had like a running clock, and there was 20 seconds left. And Barbaro was a nice guy. Barbaro was like, okay, Schultz, I have a question for you. I'd really like to get to, and and he like is prefacing it all like nice and sweet. And I'm like, all right, here we go. I already know what it's gonna be. I'm like, at a certain point in time, they're like, why didn't you ask Trump the hardest questions?
Yeah.
Why didn't you do what we would have done? Right? And he brings up this thing. He goes, on the podcast, Trump said that the Russian hoax was clearly hosted, it was fake, and that the Pulitzer Prize should be taken away from the media companies that covered it. And I guess I said afterward, like, I guess that would confirm if you gave them a Pulitzer Prize for the coverage that it was real when it was proven to be a hoax, right? And then we move on. And they're like, what do you think about that shit? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't even know.
This is why they invited him here.
Yeah.
This is why they invited you here.
Oh, that's why you're here. Yeah.
They wanted to jump him.
There's literally no more time on the clock. And they're like, oh, no, they're going to give us a few more minutes.
Oh, wow.
There's a section of the interview, and maybe you would have thought this was dutiful in the moment. I'm not so sure I'd agree, where the president is describing the entire federal investigation into Russia as a hoax, made up by Hillary Clinton, these are made up by Nancy Pelosi. That's factual, that's not accurate. But then he goes further and he says that the Pulitzer Prize Committee should give the New York Times, should take back the Pulitzer it gave to the New York Times for its aggressive coverage of that investigation.
And the Post.
And you in the interview, you're nodding along to him, you're verbally agreeing with him.
Yeah.
And you say, to have the New York Times keep that Pulitzer is to basically say that the lie is true.
Oh, that's what they brought you here for. They brought you here to put you.
Anyway, so in that moment, I kind of, and it was funny, like all the traditional media people on the panel, who are all very sweet, immediately jumped in on the conversation, and all the new media people kind of knew what it was, so they didn't. Like, so Shapiro or Favreau or Charlamagne were like, didn't really say anything about it.
Right.
So I said this is like, I was like, first of all, I don't know what the fuck, I don't know anything about the Russia hoax. I'm already going to get clipped to hell on that, I'm sure. But what I said with this is like, you guys are part of the fucking media class. You have to understand this. You are reading the whole Mueller report. You're reading all of these documents. You're following the investigation. You're following all these trials. The average person, which I think we're more representative of, all we see is there was an investigation. Mueller chose not to indict him. When we hear they're not indicting somebody, we go, oh, there isn't enough to indict him. Therefore, nothing happened.
And you know who told us that? Legacy fucking media. like legacy media created this narrative.
Now, that's not to say that there isn't smoke, right? That's not to say that there are things that they can make connections. But Mueller himself saw that there wasn't enough to indict. And what I was trying to communicate to them was like, guys, so when the American people see that, who aren't reading the whole Mueller report and looking at all these things, they just see these fucking headlines. What do you think they're thinking?
It justifies when somebody like Trump says shit is a witch hunt.
Exactly. And it justifies him when he says it's a hoax. Because if you're not willing to indict, then it's a fucking hoax.
Well, they were willing to indict on other things.
Yes, but I'm saying when you're not willing to do that.
Even at this point, you're right, but they didn't. And when you don't treat a problem like it's a problem, does it really look like a problem?
They didn't because of the rule that a president is immune, is my understanding. I mean, a grand jury did indict him on some of the election stuff.
But we're talking about like Russian collusion. This is specific Russian collusion.
I mean, so here's my question to pull it out a little bit.
And just to clarify, it's not to say that there aren't things there and they aren't reasonable in that criticism that they know.
Right.
What I was trying to communicate to them is you're privy to this and aware of all this.
Right.
The American people are seeing an indictment dropped and then seeing him go, see, it was a hoax, and very reasonably so, going, see, there's nothing here.
And also question, Chris, and I was thinking about this on the panel. The panel was, moving so fast that you just, you had to keep up. But they're the ones that are supposed to be the fact checkers, right? Mm-hmm. I would think, legacy media. So legacy media can only report what actually happened, right? Like they can't tell us, they didn't indict, but...
Well,
they can say a little. They're like...
There's always context, to every situation, right? Nothing's completely black and white where this is the fact, this is untrue, this is true. I guess my question is, I hear what you guys are saying. At the end of the day, you do want somebody who's going to read the Mueller report. You do want somebody who's going to report, essentially, that's what, which we don't do.
That's what I said. First of all, I said, it's like,
the point you said about SNL on the panel was great.
That's what I said. I was like, guys, like you guys are journalists. I'm not a journalist. I never claimed to be a fucking journalist.
Right.
Like I do a comedy podcast, right? So when we have guests on, that's the standard you should treat it with. When Trump goes on SNL, they don't go, well, why didn't you do a sketch about the Mueller report? That would have been a good sketch to go, because you have a standard and expectation for that. Right. And I think what a lot of the traditional media folks are doing, or the legacy media folks they're very upset that Trump and other figures won't go on their platforms anymore, right? And they're taking that out on us. And it's like, no, you have to find another way for them to go on their platforms. The reason they're probably not going on your platforms is because your reach has diminished. Sure. So now it's only a risk for those figures to go on a platform like yours. They have nothing to gain because there's not that many people watching, and everything to lose because you're going to grill them to shreds about the
I
mother
don't
part.
think they are. And that's the other thing.
Interesting.
We see J.D. Vance on Sunday morning news, damn near every Sunday. We see Trump sit down with certain people. All we ever say to ourselves is, yo, why is nobody asking them these questions? Why is nobody pressing them about
I think
this?
they are asking the questions.
When?
I think the audience isn't there and it doesn't resonate.
No, because when people...
No, I need an example. Give me an example.
I mean,
when have you seen Trump ask a tough question on traditional media in the past
every time
3 years?
Every time you get a reaction out of him, like, quiet piggy, that's them asking him a tough question that he doesn't want to answer.
But it's no follow-up.
Because he's not going to answer.
Not engaging.
Like, what's the point?
That's the answer.
There was another... I think what we're also learning, and I don't know if people will be unbiased enough to admit this, but like what we're also learning is that like when people are just upset about interviews that don't go the way that they want to go when it's the person that they hate. Because the person that they hate, or not hate, that they really disagree with, they want to see their opposition crumble under the pressure of those questions.
Yes.
When it's someone that they really agree with, right? Like when Mamdani goes on Sam Cedar's podcast, they tickle his belly. They're not asking him the hard-hitting questions and tell us how the HBTSA affected the cost of living and the ability to create new housing. They're not jamming all these questions down because they probably agree on a lot of things. Now, that's not to say that I agree on a lot of things with Trump. What I'm saying is I have a different way of doing interviews that I've done with everybody. And you can't put your journalistic expectation on interviews as you can when we have a comedy podcast where we're trying to get to know the person.
Somebody said something, it was interesting. Somebody said something to you backstage. I forgot who it was, but they were saying how you were nice to Trump, but you were nice to Mamdani too, or some shit like that. Was it Ben we was talking to? I forgot who the fuck we was talking to. My point is, if you watch all the flagrant interviews pretty much have the same...
Whoever comes on looks amazing. And that really bothers people when it's politicians because you never want to see the opposition look amazing. But when we come people on, I humanize people. That's what I do in every interview that I've ever done. I want to see the humanity in you. I want to hang out. I want to have fun. I want to see if there's anything that we could actually connect on.
Just curious.
Yeah.
I'm just curious too. I'm just not, I like asking, I guess, tough questions, you know what I'm saying? That make you end up, that's why I end up in all these Republican ads, I guess, you know what I mean? And people act like that is my fault. I wish we had got to that too. But people act like that's my fucking fault when I ask these questions. And it's like, because this person gave a bad answer, and so their political opponent decides to use it in a motherfucking ad for their campaign, I'm the bad guy?
The Democrats lost. They're looking for a scapegoat for that anger. Sometimes it's you for asking tough questions. And now all of a sudden tough questions are bad, by the way. Right?
Yes. Before when they're asked to the party you like,
exactly.
That's
when
right.
they're asked to the party you're like, you're pushing MAGA conspiracies or something like that.
That's right.
When they're asked to the opposition, you're a hero.
That's right.
And that's good journalism. So like what I've seen is a lot of times like the goalposts shift a lot. And I wish we could just acknowledge our own biases here and be like, hey, we want to see the people that we like look good and the people we don't like look bad. And when we see the people that we do like look good, i.e. when Mamdani comes on the pod, all the Mamdani fans are like, it was an awesome interview and we loved him, he was great. But conservatives were like, this guy's a communist. How dare you have him on here and do that? Like, let's just acknowledge our biases.
It's
Stop
always
acting
like
you
that.
have this journalistic integrity. None of you do.
It's like when we bring, I used to always see that when we would bring any transgender on the show, any transgender, you would have people from the transgender community upset because they're like, that's not the right representation of us. And then you would have our regular listeners like, man, what is this shit you got on the radio? Right? So actually it's more of a detriment because our broader audience is like, what are you doing? That's why when Flame comes on, people like Flame because Flame isn't coming on to do anything but make you fucking laugh.
Exactly.
And to me, that is what humanizes people.
Yes.
And that's what they don't want when it's a political figure they don't like.
When it's somebody that is threatening your existence, let's say. We're going to put it in the most hyperbolic terms, right? They're threatening your existence.
I don't want to use that type of language no more.
All right, fine.
And I'm going to tell you why, Chris, in a minute. Go ahead.
But like when it's somebody that is threatening like your worldview, how about that? When someone's threatening your worldview, you don't want to see that person humanized. You don't want to see that person looking charming. You don't want to see that person like, I saw it with the Mamdani. It's like, there are a lot of people that don't agree with some of his policies. I don't agree with a lot of his policies, but they saw him looking charming, funny, able to hang, and they were like, fuck, this is bad. People are going to like him. And it's like, Yeah, people might like people you disagree with. That's the reality of the world we live in. Grow the fuck up.
The reason I don't want to use extreme language like that no more is because I'm telling politicians that they shouldn't use that type of language anymore. Because when you throw words around like fascist,
That you don't actually...
strength of democracy
Yep.
and the end of your existence, but
Yep.
then you don't ever really act like that.
That was...
You know
So
what I'm
Charlamagne
saying?
brought up a great point in this thing. He was like, look, he's like, what the hell are we doing? He was talking about when Trump and Mamdani met. He goes, Mamdani called Trump a fascist, and then they're cozying up and hanging out, and like he was almost reluctant to call him a fascist until Trump gave him the out in the meeting.
And then 2 days later on Meet the Press, they asked him again.
Yeah, and he's like...
he was like, yes, I believe he's a fascist, but I can work with him. And there's no greater way to normalize fascism.
Do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes. And
So you do?
and that's something that I've said in the past. I say it today. And I think what I appreciated about the conversation that I had with the president was that we were not shy about the places of disagreement, about the politics that has brought us to this moment. And we also wanted to focus on what it could look like to deliver on a shared analysis of an affordability crisis for New Yorkers.
You've also said in the past that President Trump has engaged in a, quote, attack on our democracy. You've called him a despot. Do you still believe President Trump is a threat to the democracy?
Everything that I've said in the past, I continue to believe. And that's the thing that I think is important in our politics, is that we don't shy away from where we have disagreements, but we understand what it is that brings us to that table. Because I'm not coming into the Oval Office to make a point or make a stand. I'm coming in there to deliver for New Yorkers. And a few weeks ago, I was asked by a reporter 3 words to describe myself. I said, New York City. And that's what animated that conversation. How do we deliver for the people of New York City?
I think that some of your supporters would be curious to know. You say you stand by your past statements that, yes, he's a threat to the democracy. How do you square working with someone who you still think is a threat to the democracy?
I think working for the people of New York City demands that you work with everyone and anyone, and that you always look to find those areas of agreement while not overlooking the places of disagreement.
And so Charlamagne brought this great point. He's like, you're normalizing fascism in that way. And then there is a...
No, literally.
Yeah.
Because he said it.
No.
He said you're a fascist and I can work with
I
him.
had your back,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
and then
for sure.
what I think David Remnick was like, well, I know him, I've met him, and I've spoken to him, and I knew in that moment that he was performing with Trump. And I go, David, how do you know when the performance starts? Does the performance start with you? Or does the performance start with Trump?
That's right.
I'm sure you would believe it starts with Trump because that fits your worldview better.
That's right.
But it might have started with both of you. I personally love seeing politicians that disagree on things come together and be friends. I would love if they didn't call each other extreme things and then rile up their bases to hate the opposition, and we get to the point where there are people literally fist fighting in the street at protests because of this rhetoric that's being pushed down from their leaders.
And listen what you just
that
said,
would
Schultz.
be great.
You said you love to see politicians that disagree with each other coming together. Yes, if this was normal political circumstances. But guess who's telling us this isn't normal political circumstances?
The politicians.
The politicians and the
And
media.
the media, yeah.
And we got eyes and can tell.
Yes.
So, and also another point I brought up to David, and I can't wait till y'all hear this conversation, because David was talking about the authoritarian strategy that Trump is using on the media, like, having the FCC say we're going to pull licenses.
Right. Wrong, which we all
Absolutely.
agreed was
what
wrong.
was
wrong.
like FCC pulling licenses? What was the other thing?
Pulling
pressuring them to fire people
pulling
like Kimmel,
funding.
pulling funding, all that
Limiting
stuff.
access, you can go on and on.
Limiting access
Absolutely,
is another one.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Which we all
Unanimous agreement. Bad.
We all agree that something is wrong. That something is wrong with that. But you can't say that's authoritarian strategy, right? And try to ring the alarm on that, but then act like saying it's okay to work with a fascist is fine.
So
because what happens when
the word has no meaning?
As you say, Chris, they didn't start killing the Jews on day 1. They killed them on day 600.
Right.
So what happens when we get to day 100 and you've been trying to tell people what's been going on, but you've been using this language like fascist and authoritarian,
Cry wolf.
but shit is really happening, and they're like,
You cry
Can I
wolf.
give you the counter?
okay.
Yes,
And
please.
I agree with you. I think Trump is a fascist. Blah,
Give
blah,
us
blah.
that steel, man. I think that's
The
important.
counter is Trump holds the purse strings to hundreds of millions, maybe $1 billion worth of potential federal aid.
Of course, yeah.
Whether you think he's a fascist or not. And you have to try to work with him because the city will essentially collapse and suffer if you don't cut a deal. I look, if Trump walked in that door, I'm walking out the door. I agree. You don't engage with somebody like that. I agree with you 100%, but that's the counter.
Oh, I agree with you, Chris, but here's the thing.
But if you know you have to work with him,
don't call him a fascist.
if you know that that's part of the job, and you know you're going to have to work with him, you know you're going to have to get access. I think that what we all have to acknowledge is like Trump calling Mamdani a communist riles up support of his base.
There's theater.
And Mamdani calling Trump a fascist riles up support in his base. And we have to at least acknowledge that they're using those instruments to both of their advantage. When in reality, the greatest advantage that we would all have is that these people who disagree, major disagreements throughout the world, are able to work together and maybe pull each other closer, maybe away from communism and away from fascism by having these conversations.
I have some Cuban friends, and when I tell you that they were they hate Zoran Mamdani. And they're like telling me about stories their grandparents told them about communism in Cuba.
Yeah.
And they're like, Castro was charming too, and blah, blah, blah. Like, they're like visibly upset about the fact that Zoran Mamdani is going to be the mayor of New York City because of all the language that they've used against him, calling him a communist and stuff like that.
Well, I think the irony in this is Trump emerged as a politician because he wasn't a politician, if that makes sense. He convinced people he was outside of that space.
Yes.
Mamdani did the same thing.
Yes.
I'm not a politician.
I don't think he would ever say he wasn't a politician.
Well, maybe not a politician, but I'm operating in a different space.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing right now is...
Did he?
Yeah, a little bit. But
he was an assemblyman.
I'm confused. Why can't both things be true? Like, why can't Mamdani think he's a fascist, but also know he has
because
to
it
work
looks
with
hypocritical
him?
when you're a politician.
How about this, Alex?
And it makes the word fascist mean nothing.
Let me slice thin. Let's slice thin. It's as thin as this. I get scared when I see Trump doing these things that are exhibiting authoritarian tendencies.
Yeah. Okay.
I get concerned because I don't want America to devolve into an authoritarian leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I pray, or whatever the political answer is, and I really hope that that's not what he hopes for the country. I imagine that he honors the Constitution. I imagine he really cares about America being a free and open society.
Okay.
But that's something that scares me. It definitely scares my constituents. That is the political answer that isn't just using the word, this person is a fascist, as a label.
Got you. Okay. So you want him to slice it a little bit thinner.
It's the difference between just calling somebody, hey, Miss Rachel's an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
And like, that was another thing I brought up in the thing. It was like, Miss Rachel's an anti-Semite. It's like, if you call Miss Rachel an anti-Semite.
But that one's way further than.
What if I call you a homosexual?
Shut up.
No, I'm serious. If I say Alex is a homosexual to a room full of people.
Now everyone's gay.
Everybody thinks he sucks a cock.
Yes, they do.
There's no other way around that.
Yeah.
You're a homosexual.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks you take it up the ass.
I hate this.
You understand what I'm saying? I can't say somebody is a fascist and then say, but I'm willing to work with him. Because if that's the case, then you don't really believe he's a fascist, or maybe that person isn't a fascist because there's no such thing as working with fascism. There's never been a time in history where you can work with a fascist.
What if a girl kept saying, oh my God, this guy's gay, this guy's gay, this guy's gay, and then she went and married him?
Yes.
We'd be like, I don't believe you.
You married the Human Torch.
You married a Human Torch. You can't do that.
Like, why would you do that?
I mean, you can.
Like, wait,
but now we don't believe it.
I thought he was gay.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But then what if she was like, I'll actually just be nice to him for his money? That's the argument they're making with Mamdani and Trump.
And by the way, I have no problem with Zoran Mamdani.
You thought I was talking about Jesseline and Akash?
No.
What the hell is going on? We've already settled that one. They already got them and they were broke, Alex. Get off the internet.
But
they slept on a floor together, which is a luxury place in India, but in America it's not. Okay?
The reason we even brought this up on...
Indians watching that clip like, you guys had a floor?
The reason we even brought this up on the panel, because we were just talking about the media's role and responsibility when it comes to normalizing a lot of the things that we're seeing.
They do normalize
the shit
hatred.
is confusing.
They normalize hatred, and then when you don't normalize it, when we sit here on the pod and like try to find a gray area and shit, they're like, oh, you're fence sitting, you're seeing both sides. It's like, yeah, you should fucking see both sides. Half of the people in this country are sitting on a different side. It might be advantageous for you to see what they're feeling, and maybe you agree a little bit.
Yo, imagine watching CNN all the time and they tell you that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy and he's authoritarian and fascist and all of these things. But then as soon as Zoran goes in the White House, they're like, how Zoran Mamdani charmed America's unruly uncle.
Yeah, uncle. Now
that was literally the fucking headline.
Now he's unk.
He's just, he's an unruly uncle now, a week before Thanksgiving. So now you go home and you're dealing with all your unruly uncles. And you're like,
just like the president.
Just like Trump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
So like, I guess what Charlamagne's trying to say is like, yo, you guys in media have to take responsibility for that shit. You can't just decide what words mean when they benefit you and then act like you never said them when it benefits you.
And then when those of us say the type of things we're saying now, act like we crazy.
Which they did for 2
We
fucking
actually
years.
giving you the alley-oop to
Hello?
grab it and dunk it.
But they don't.
Here, you know what? That is something. We should stop normalizing words like fascism and communism and saying things that threat to democracy if they're not acting on it. I brought up the Merrick Garland point. They all looked at me like I was
You
fucking
were crazy. You were crazy.
You know what I mean? Because we was on the Russian hoax thing. I was like, but there's other examples. I'm like, yo,
January 6th.
January fucking 6th. You know, Merrick Garland was dragged his feet when it came to prosecuting Trump. So did it really happen to people? When you're telling us that, they was like, well, we all saw it. You know what I mean? Yes, we all saw it.
Yes.
But nobody was held accountable for it.
Yes.
So was it really a crime?
Yes.
I can't.
Obviously.
I mean, a lot of the people that stormed the Capitol were held accountable.
They were held accountable, but then
were.
they're released. And
The president wasn't.
But I guess what he's trying to say is
The president was not held accountable for January 6th,
that's
Chris.
true.
They tried.
And then ultimately,
And when Biden got out of office, was the first thing he said, I should have got a different attorney general that would have actually went after him much sooner.
Well, that's politics, and that's
But there shouldn't be politics. If it's a threat to democracy, when are we going to stop acting like it's politics as usual? We have all these conversations about the media normalizing Trump, but we never have conversations about the actual politicians normalizing Trump. And that's what the media should be talking about. How Joe Biden can say somebody's a threat to democracy, but when they win the White House, literally standing outside of it saying, welcome home. Zoran Mamdani saying, I can work with a fascist.
all these politicians
Like,
that showed
huh?
up to Dick Cheney's funeral. All these politicians have been like, this is the worst vice president in history, responsible for all these, which he was.
right.
Right? And then them all showing up at his funeral with their little crocodile tears. Get the fuck.
I don't think y'all realize how confusing this shit is.
And I think
I
that's,
agree. Look, I agree. I don't like seeing it, and I don't like it when they go to the funerals and they kind of put pomp and circumstance over. reality.
people go, why? And then we have these whole discussions where the first discussion of the whole panel was like, do people trust the media, or should people
That
trust?
was the first question.
Should people trust the media? And it's like, after this discussion, do you understand why they are hesitant to?
Did you notice? Did
yeah.
you notice something? When they asked us that question, that was the first question they asked us. It was a yes or no question. Do you trust the media? The only people who said yes was the legacy media people.
Yeah. I mean, I said yes, you should trust the media to deliver to its viewers exactly what they want. So trust them to be untrustworthy.
I said broadly no.
Yeah.
But you should trust the people who earn your trust.
Yes, which is, yeah.
That's what I feel.
So, what should the headline of CNN been when he went to the White House?
Not motherfucking how Zoran Mamdani charmed America's unruly uncle. What does that even? First of all, what does that even mean? Like, how do we? Like, everybody talks about Zoran playing Trump like a fiddle. We sat on this podcast, Brilliant Idiots, a few weeks ago, and what did we say? We said it would be advantageous for Donald Trump to play nice with Mamdani.
Stop giving Trump advice because he took it.
Yeah, but that's my
He
point.
did exactly what we said.
We
he should
said
do on
it.
the pod.
We said
Right here.
Donald Trump should play nice with Mamdani because getting in his way just gives Mamdani an excuse.
An excuse.
Any overreach from the federal government gives Mamdani an excuse. Let Mamdani fight it out with Albany, okay? You sit back, wish him the best, and see what happens. That's how do we know Trump didn't play Mamdani? He's the one with the power.
Yep.
What the fuck, Mamdani? Trump don't need Mamdani.
That's the other thing we were saying is like part of the discussion was like who are these media, because we were talking about Trump's authoritarian tendencies when it comes to media, right? And they're like, there are some media platforms that are trying to sell to a bigger conglomerate, and Trump can hold that up with the FCC. And then so what I said to that is I was like, why is that my problem?
Why is that? Word up.
Why are you willing to sell the trust of your company down the river for a few bucks? If you care about information and news, don't do the sale.
Yo, I brought up.
You're trying to get rich.
Yeah, and I said that.
Like-
I said the personalities at these platforms. That's when you're supposed to ring the alarm and say, "Yo, this guy said he's going to take our license if." If we basically don't do his bidding. They're not going to approve this merger if we don't do their bidding. And then the panel the legacy media started talking about, well, the owners have to do business. Bob Iger's not just concerned about,
Too bad.
ABC's concerned about Disney. What?
That's not our fault.
If there are corporate interests and financial interests in media, they're going to want a return on that investment. Just like anything else, you invest in a building, you hope to sell it for more one day, right? So when we know that exists and that's part of the system, it's not wrong for the American people to look at it through that lens, right? If we know that the pharmaceutical industry is pumping tons of ads into whatever program, 100%. And they're not going to report on anything bad about the pharmaceutical industry, it's no question why we might have a little bit of distrust for that network.
But that's also why it's actually complicated. Right? When people kept looking at the Jimmy Kimmel situation, it wasn't just about Jimmy Kimmel. Bob Iger has to worry about the NFL and ESPN and the massive book of business he has in front of the FCC chair.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, I hear you because
So the answer to why should we trust the media should be a resounding no, based off everything I'm hearing.
Can I make
Right?
one
Like that.
Can we also just stop saying the media?
Correct.
Because I
You
just
think it's too much of an umbrella term?
It's
okay,
too
let's-
umbrella-
but
it's
let's-
too
let-
broad.
then
Like,
let's
we're
get
all in
specific.
the
Then
media,
let's get
but we all
specific.
don't do the same thing.
So you're basically telling us y'all are still putting business
Over the
over
truth.
the people, over the
And the
truth, over the
trust.
Constitution.
So don't be
over the
surprised when they
trust
don't
of the
trust you.
people, over the trust of the people.
Don't be surprised when they don't trust you.
Come on, man.
It's that simple.
What are we talking about here? Yo?
It's like, to me, it's very simple. The media company that goes, we would love to make this merger, we would make a lot of money, but we were going to have to fold on our journalistic convictions in order to do so because Trump was putting pressure. So we can't do it. We just refuse to do it.
Yes.
Guess who we're going to trust? That fucking platform.
That's right. Listen, I think it was Barack Obama who said it. Barack Obama was like, yo, some of the institutions just got to stand up.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody standing up. They on their knees. So what are we, the people, supposed to do? You want us to trust the people we see standing in front of Alex?
CBS.
Kneeling in front of
you.
Alex. Alex got his hand on the back of
come
their
on.
neck. And we supposed to trust
Come on,
them.
We can't trust
You know
them.
what I'm saying?
Can't trust them.
That's it.
You're not willing to fight for yourself. Why are we fighting for you?
Well, I don't know if that's the conversation. We're fighting because we're having our own conversations on our own platforms. I guess what we're saying is legacy media wonders why people are tuned into other outlets now.
I meant like more the Harvard dude, like the Harvard Summers or whatever like that. Like if this guy is stepping down, but he didn't do anything, he's stepping down because his connections with Harvey, but like he truly didn't do anything. He was trying to hook up with a 26-year-old girl or something like that. If you are not even going to fight for yourself, don't expect us to fight for you. It's that simple. If you are not willing to fight for you, why are we going to fight for you? If you fight for yourself, let's get behind you. Let's show how this is unfair and that you're not even indicted. You're not even involved in this case at all. And you shouldn't have anything stripped from you.
And I think it's a cop-out when they just try to say people are stupid. You know what I'm saying? People are just dumb. It's like, no, actually the way y'all report the news is actually dumb. Because nobody's keeping an agenda on these networks.
Favreau had a great point because they
the other, what was the young lady's name?
No, Favreau, remember we were talking about that. He was like, I think that you're belittling the intelligence of the viewer. Like he goes, when a viewer tunes into Ben's show or tunes into our show, they're aware of what they're tuning into.
That's right.
The assumption from the legacy media is like, people don't know anything and then they turn on the pod with Trump and then it's like, no, they're aware that they turn on Flagrant to comedy podcasts. They're aware when we're doing this show here that we're just fucking around busting balls. They're aware. And they're aware when they tune into Ben that he's going to be incredibly sympathetic to conservative values. Obviously, super supportive of Israel. They're aware of that. They're not stupid. And I thought that was a great point. Because I think that the legacy people were more like, these people are being tricked and manipulated. And it's like,
they're fully, a lot of these people are very informed. Very, 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 very informed. They actually just probably either want to see another side or they're just tuning in to his latest shit.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, Amna had a good point too. I can't remember what she said.
What Amna say?
What was we talking about right before that?
By
the way, that's another reason I can't really be doing these panels and shit.
Because it's so much.
Man, I be fucking forgetting so fast. Like that shit be moving so motherfucking fast. Like, hold on, what happened? Hold on, that was a good point. Oh, I want to reply to that. Wait, whoa, but you know what? That was a good point too.
Yeah.
What was we talking about right before that?
It was the intelligence of the people, and we can't. You're assuming that these people are unaware of what they're watching.
I don't remember. I don't even know why I'm sitting there trying.